Dan Bolton made $1.3 million a year with his coaching business last year, and he took no sales calls and only worked 4 hours a day. And in this video, I'm going to show you exactly all of his tips and tricks and all of his strategies and tactics so that you can do the same. So the first thing is his funnel. So first thing he does is he runs follower ads. So he's getting followers for $1 to $3 each on Instagram, sending them to his Instagram page. They follow him. And then from there, he sends them to his YouTube. And then from his YouTube, he goes to his opt-in page. He collects their email, sends them emails, marketing emails. They go to his mini VSL. So he's selling them on the product. And then he funnels everyone back to his IGDM. His call to actions are DM me on Instagram, things like that to learn more about our stuff. And then from there, he sends you sales documents, things like that. And then you ultimately check out and buy. We'll dive into all of this in this video. So first off, here are some quick stats from his funnel this last month. So 0 sales calls and ad spend $1,800, IG followers at $3.05. And then you can see the rest there. From those follower ads, he pushes them straight to his Instagram. Follow him on Instagram. And then the first step of Dan's business is essentially to get people to find him. So getting people from the unknown to the known. And he uses follower ads to achieve that. For paid ads, he runs boosted Instagram posts. So he doesn't use the Facebook ad manager or anything. He just posts something on Instagram and then hits the boost in the little option under the post. And then he urges people to follow him on Instagram. What Instagram is for Dan is essentially what he calls his social channel. So it's really the place where he builds his main audience. This is also the place where he could also start conversations with his followers, and we'll kind of get into that later. So from Instagram, sends people straight to YouTube. And YouTube is really, really crucial and essential in his funnel because what it does is it nurtures his followers. So getting people from cold, so not knowing who he is, to knowing his story, liking him, and also trusting him and what he does. So you can see here, he sends people to YouTube through a ManyChat automation. So you can see here, comment roadmap here. People comment, and then he sends them a reply and sends them the link to the video. So from there, he sends people to his YouTube. And then the main objective here is for YouTube to nurture his leads, turning them from cold leads into warm leads. So it's kind of like when you're in the market for something, right? So for me, I really like computer stuff, tech stuff. And when I'm in the market for, let's say, like a new mouse or new headphones, I look on websites. So websites like Reddit, people share their reviews, share their suggestions and recommendations for stuff. And once you kind of get that research and you gather that research, you start to warm up to specific products. You start to see products in a new light. And that's essentially what Dan is doing with his YouTube. He's getting people to know about him and start to know, like, and trust him. And YouTube is really ideal for this because of the nature of the content, which it's essentially long form content. With short form content, you can't really tell your story. You're just very limited on time with short form. But long form videos really let viewers experience your personality, hear your story, and really understand your message, which ultimately results in deep trust and credibility. Again, in a way short form content can. And so the more time a prospect or lead spends with you, the easier it is to guide them towards the know, like, and trust stage that leads to sales. Given that the time that they spend with you, they have a positive reinforcement and positive interaction with. So from his YouTube, he sends people to an opt-in page. And this landing page is essentially this, right? So how I make 80 to 100K per month profit with one offer, 0 sales calls, and in 4 hours a day, which is very appealing. It's a dream outcome that a lot of people want, right? That run coaching businesses. So really strong headline. And then the main purpose of the opt-in page is really to collect data. So he collects your data, collects your email, and then from that, he can use his email to further nurture you and also redirect you back to YouTube videos that are just ultimately helpful. And from his opt-in page, he sends you to his mini VSL. And this is really one of the key components in his content because it is the one video that essentially sells for him. And so this mini VSL does all of the selling for him. So selling people on his story, selling people on his message, and then selling people on his solution. So his unique mechanism, things like that. And so here's a great clip to kind of understand this as well.
And I basically combined these two things to realize that, like, people need to feel, number one, ethos is sold on you the messenger. Number two, pathos, they need to be sold on the message. And then number three, they need to be sold on the solution. Well, the problem that most of us have is that if we're having any sales conversations whatsoever, we're typically talking to people who are not yet sold on us and not yet sold on our message or our worldview or our model or our mechanism, whatever it is you want to call it, your super fancy cool thing. And so you spend a lot of time on a phone or in the DMs trying to convince someone of something. And when you can get a video to do the teaching and the educating and the convincing and selling for you, then the last piece, logos, does this solution make sense for me, is a way easier conversation.
And so that's a full look at his content ecosystem. So in all parts of his content ecosystem, the next step is actually to DM him on Instagram a specific keyword. So again, leading into that keyword mechanism, that automation through ManyChat, and this starts his quote conversion event, aka taking the next steps to be in his mentorship program. It's a very simple system, and he really does all of this using three things, which is Notion, ManyChat, and IGDMs. So Notion for his sales documents, ManyChat for his automations, and then IGDMs is essentially the house that houses all of that stuff. By this point, leads should already have been, quote, warmed up enough and should know, like, and trust Dan. And as a quick story, I had this person reach out to me. They're doing like 3 to 5K a month with their coaching business in the fitness niche. And they had roughly 150K followers on Instagram. And I said to her, well, are you nurturing your leads? And she's like, well, what does that mean? And I essentially told her, I was like, hey, are you getting people to know, like, and trust you? Are you building authority, building credibility with your content? And she said, well, of course I am. I've been nurturing them for 3 to 4 years. And I looked at her content and it was exact opposite of that. A lot of her content was more lifestyle stuff, relationship stuff, and it wasn't really fitness stuff. It was more of like personal things she's been going through with her life, things like that. And none of her fitness content was actually valuable fitness content that built authority, built credibility, and got prospects to know, like, and trust her. And so remember that it's not just to get followers, to get views, to get subscribers. It's you need to get people to know, like, and trust you, and ultimately be bought into your service. And so an easy way to really qualify someone who is warmed up enough is to understand Google's 7-11-4 rule. So it states that 7 hours, consumers typically spend about 7 hours engaging with a brand's content before making a purchase. 11 touch points, so on average, consumers interact with a brand 11 times before they decide to buy, and on 4 platforms. So consumers usually encounter a brand across 4 different platforms or locations before purchasing. From his content ecosystem, he sends people to his Instagram DMs. So once you go to his Instagram DMs, the prospect should already be sold on his story, ethos, and how he helps people, which is pathos. And then the last part, which is what he's accomplishing in here, the Instagram DMs, is logos. So you could kind of see the whole DM automations here. So you DM him inner circle. He's like, ready to get started. Click below to say yes. And then he makes sure that you have watched the mini VSL. Now, this is a crucial component because if he knows that you haven't watched the mini VSL, then you're going to have a very low chance of actually joining his mentorship. So he redirects and makes sure that everyone who goes through this funnel is warmed up and nurtured enough. So once he knows that you've watched it and have expressed interest in his program, he actually lets you know that the program is currently closed, leaning on urgency and scarcity to increase demand for his offer. So if you don't know what that is, that's fine. We're going to go through that real quick. So here's how it works. For scarcity, it's essentially decreasing supply to raise prices and increase demand through perceived exclusiveness. Think fear of missing out, aka FOMO. Think about it like a donut shop. So a donut shop, shop A is like 500 donuts. They have 500 donuts a day. They create it, and people could stop in whenever they want. There's another shop with shop B. They only make 50 donuts, and so people start showing up earlier when they open. People tell their friends about it. People buy more, and then also people will pay extra for that. those donuts, right? So the benefit is faster purchasing decisions at higher prices. And so Dan does this by saying doors for Inner Circle are currently closed, but open again in 15 hours. So you can see that right here. And then for urgency, it's essentially increasing demand by decreasing the action threshold of a prospect. So think of it like you putting a timeline or a timer on a specific decision. So think about it like this. You're laying in bed, scrolling on your phone, and you're really craving ice cream. So you're kind of like, maybe tomorrow. I don't really feel like moving. I'm comfortable right now. But you look on your phone, you check the website, and they close in 15 minutes. Well, you quickly hop out of bed, you throw on some clothes, and you're out the door in 2 minutes, right? In that rushed action, that faster decision making is really the benefit of having urgency baked into your offer. So the benefit is really getting more people to take action than would otherwise. So Dan does this really well by saying doors are open for the next 72 hours for his waitlist on his Inner Circle program. And we'll kind of get into that later. But just know for now that scarcity is what he uses for his waitlist. So you can see here, doors for Inner Circle are currently closed, but open again in 15 hours. And again, he's leaning on that scarcity to decrease supply for his Inner Circle and then make it perceived as more valuable. And so you share your email with him, and he kind of has that little countdown with his email. And then from here, he sends you actually his waitlist resource page, which is one of the sales documents that he uses to sell you more on the idea of working together. So he says, stuck we're thinking about working together, you're going to email in 15 hours, plus I'll reach out. In the meantime, if you're new to my world and still wondering what I would do work well for you, check this out. So he links you to this waitlist resource page. This accomplishes three things. Number one, it handles objections. Number two, it makes sure that you are sold on ethos, pathos, and logos. And then number three, it increases the perceived likelihood of achievement, which we'll kind of get into later. And so this is the waitlist resource page. So if you kind of look at it, he has a cool, nice little human headline. So we're thinking about working together, and I love it. So it's not like he just had to make $10 trillion in the next 3 months. Crazy headline like that. More of a human connection type of thing. He really goes to the main sales objections here. So is Dan the mentor for me? Will he value create a way to work for your business? And then will the Inner Circle give me the support I need? And he just drops some helpful resources for you. Here is he's going through his mechanism. So how he makes 25K profit in a week in 3 hours a day. And then this one is his story. So again, ethos, you want them to be bought into your story, bought into you. So this is why he includes this here. And then number three is logos. He's going through his whole funnel, his whole business, his whole system, and he wants you to be bought into that. And then the last part is really how he increases the perception or increases the value of his product, right? So what he does is he says, he just drops proof. He drops social proof. He drops credibility. He drops authority. So in the last 7 years, I've worked with 1,100 clients who've generated $500 million online. And who can really say that? That's a super cool stat. I have 1,000 wins, screenshots, and 100 plus video testimonials. And my job here is to not convince you of anything, but share the perspective. And hopefully you'll feel if this is the right move for you or not. So again, a nice little human connection. So again, it goes through all of these, all the testimonials. And what this does is it increases the perceived likelihood of achievement. So a prospect going through all of these and watching these and looking through all of these people that have actually achieved success with this program, they're going to be more inclined and think highly of the program that this will be the right program for them to achieve their goals. And so if you look at the value equation by Alex Hormozi, it's a dream outcome, perceived likelihood of achievement. You want to increase those, and then time delay and effort and sacrifice on the bottom, and you want to decrease those. And that way you have a valuable product. So again, to increase the value, you want to increase the perceived likelihood of achievement. that someone has for your product. And that's essentially what Dan is doing with providing proof, providing authority, providing credibility with those testimonials and case studies, is that people go in, they see that, and they say, oh, nice. I'll probably hit my goals with this product, and ultimately it's going to be more valuable and increase demand for his product. So that's what the main objective is for including those testimonials, including those case studies. And then from there, after the 15 hours is up for the waitlist, he sends you a nice little voice message. He's like, hey, glad you're thinking about working together. Doors are open. Here's a nice resource to see if you would be a good fit or not. And then at the end, it's a nice little conversation starter. It's once you've read, can you please get back to me? Even if it's not a fit, would be super helpful to know where you're at. And so he sends you to his inner circle invite sales doc. So the second sales doc. And so this is the second sales doc, inner circle invite, March 2025. So first off, really, really cool sales doc. The first thing that he does up here is he makes sure that you know who he is. So if you click on this, it goes straight to one of his VSLs, which was actually in the last sales doc. Again, first thing first here is a nice little video sales letter, or not a sales letter, but more of like a just kind of like an introduction. And then the second part is more of like the actual sales copy. So, what if you could scale to 50 to 100K a month profit with simplicity, fun, and freedom? So, really hitting on the dream outcome, right? So, 50 to 100K a month profit, and then also some nice little things that we would love to have, right? So, simplicity, fun, and freedom. And then what he really does in this sales copy is he's selling you on the mechanism, selling you on the solution. And this is really that logos thing that that we mentioned earlier. So inside Inner Circle, I give you the exact roadmap to reach what I call 7-figure flow. And then this is all like dream outcome stuff. So business spits out 50, 100K a month profit, work when you want, where you want, and how you want, attract dream clients effortlessly, and then keeps you in your zone of genius. In the first 90 days, our goal is to build your 100K a month foundation, one that's simple, scalable, and aligned with your ideal life. And then here's how we do that. So he drops 4 of his unique mechanisms, which are number 1, proximity offers, number 2, the community funnel, number 3, the content ecosystem, and then number 4, the leverage ops. Sells on those, just gives a little high level overview of what those are, and then drops social proof. So this is what Cody K did to hit his first 104K profit. James C used the system to close 19 clients in 7 days. This helped Wes close 56 clients in 8 weeks. And then Josh used the system to hit 37K cash a month while working less than ever. So again, dropping that social proof, dropping that credibility. Cool little thing here that he also does is he adds little bonuses. So this is a nice little bonus of you'll also unlock optional systems like low ticket products and our inbox income method. And then further sells you on it by breaking it down into 3 phases. So the artist, the architect, and the alchemist. And for some, maybe hitting 100K a month may feel daunting. Maybe it may feel like a super big task compared to where they are currently. So what he does is he breaks it down and simplifies it into 3 phases. So phase 1, you have building a strong offer and funnel. Phase 2, you have refining systems, boosting retention, and stacking recurring revenue. And then the third phase is optimizing for flow. So shifting to deep profit, thought leadership, and building. And then the last part is how does it all work? So content, you get immediate access to the roadmap, fresh drops from guest experts and from him, calls, weekly calls, mix of training, Q&A, and guests, community. So you have everything on a community. That's where you have also like a intimate setting with other peers that are currently at the same level, things like that, for accountability, support, and connection. And then events, so 3 in-persons a year. Invite to all of them, no upsells, no paywalls. And then is the investment. So 350 USD a week, cancel any time, super simple. So if you've read this far and want to step into 7-figure flow, I'd love to welcome you inside. I'm not trying to scale some giant program. I'm building something more intimate and powerful. If you know the time, let's do it. So he kind of takes a step back and says, hey, I don't really want your money, right? And it's a super big power play in terms of how they perceive you as a coach, how they perceive you as an authority figure. And then the last line, when you join, I'll give you my cash campaigns playbook so you not only earn investment back fast, but become a cash flowing raving fan ASAP. And then if you're ready to sign up, you can go ahead and start here. You'll be in the community within minutes. So once he sends you to that checkout page, it's really just one offer. It's not like a whole bunch of other info products that have a low ticket, a high ticket, a upsell, a downsell, a cross sell. It's just one product, but it has two payment options. So number one, you have the $350 a week, or number two, you have the $3,500 for 12 weeks. And I really couldn't find much about why he chooses the price as weeks, but here's what I found on an external article. So pricing on a weekly basis has three advantages over the monthly model that is more common, right? So number one, it has a lower failure rate. By charging smaller payments, it's more likely to go through on a credit card versus a higher ticket program. Number two, it has a lower barrier to entry for prospects. So lower barriers of entry into your products or services allows prospects to join at lower prices and test the waters. So test how good you are, see if they like the product or not, and things like that. And then number three, it increases yearly revenue by 8%. So, and this is a really super cool stat that I learned as well, is billing monthly only bills for 48 weeks. So 4 weeks times 12 months, while billing weekly gives you all 52 weeks, which is a 8% revenue bump, which is super cool. And so if you're looking to replicate a coaching or consulting model like this, I did a full breakdown on James Smith's sales funnel, and you can check that out.